not the right setup to do this work, to sustain this effort, and the food processing work that's really key to our future success there. We need to transform that building into the food security hub. I did want to say a quick word about how proud we are that our incredible volunteers have stuck with us through all of this, through all these changes. Over 5,000 volunteers per year help us do our work, and our records show they come from 27 of the 28 cities and towns in Cumberland County. Many are involved through the 48 churches and temples and other faith communities that support us. We rely so much on these volunteers, as well as the food donations from all the area Hannafords, from Shaw's, from Good Shepherd Food Bank, of course, from dozens of local farms, from all over Cumberland County. But I really want to give you the message today. We are ready to do this. We expect to close on the building next week, March 7th to be exact. Last week, we successfully received unanimous approval from the South Portland Planning Board to start renovation work. We're ahead of schedule on that process. We've raised $2.4 million in private funding to support this estimated $8 million project. We've submitted a pre-application to the City of South Portland for ARPA funding. We've submitted a full application to the State Department of Agriculture for ARPA funding. We're also in conversations and ongoing discussions with representatives from other state departments and officials about potential other ARPA funds at the state level. We've talked to people at DHHS, Maine Housing, the governor's office. We've also reached out to and plan to apply for future federal earmarks with our congressional delegation. We are deep in our design process with our architects and kitchen design specialists to get construction ready drawings ready as soon as possible. We've got a construction firm lined up. We've researched all the kitchen and food processing equipment that will be needed and ready to put in purchase orders. We're working really hard to make this happen, and we're ready to go. I also want to respond to your question asking for a snapshot on internal DEIA practices. Purple Street, we certainly recognize that homelessness, hunger, and poverty can't be meaningfully addressed without naming and challenging structural racism. We also know that Black, Indigenous, and people of color experience homelessness, housing instability, and poverty at a much higher rate than white people in Maine. At only 1% of the population, Black or African Americans, make up 19% of the homeless population in Maine. So all the staff are committed to anti-racist work. What that looks like includes participating in a 10-week racial equity training, supporting a robust Preble Street Race Equity Committee, using our communications channels to amplify the voices, messages, and vision of BIPOC leaders and organizations. And this past year, we created a culturally appropriate meals program that ultimately produced 43,000 meals in 2021 for new Mainers. So I think that takes me just to about 5 minutes, but I'm happy to field any questions now or later. Thank you very much for your time and attention.
Mark, thank you very much. As I said earlier, we're gonna hold all the comments till the very end. We'll move into the Maine Recovery Fund. Is anyone here representing that organization?
Yes, thank you so much. I'm sitting off to the side here. How about if I join you there? Oh, there.
There you are.
Good morning. Thank you so much. I'm just still reeling from hearing Tyler and Mark and the needs that are being met by this organization, this group of people, and it's just unbelievable this opportunity exists to come together and talk about these critical issues. And I wish our legislature really well tonight at the State of the Union, because we've got a lot to do. But here we are. So good morning. My name is Margot Walsh, and I own a company called MaineWorks, and I am the co-founder and board chair of Maine Recovery Fund. MaineWorks provides employment for people in recovery from substance use disorder, reentry from jail and prison, and new Americans. Maine Recovery Fund provides transportation and other integrative services to support this vulnerable population. At the onset of COVID, immediately, Governor Mills granted MaineWorks essential worker status. Because of our support of the industrial construction sector, we provide labor to those job sites. Despite our continued operation during COVID, it is important for everyone to understand that MaineWorks employees were unilaterally ineligible for other COVID unemployment benefits due to their lack of employment history. Their only alternative to employment at MaineWorks would have been reliance on social services or other pandemic emergency measures. Despite our continued operation, so as you know, from the beginning of COVID, all of these transportation issues were critically affected. MaineWorks employees were deployed to many active work sites that you see across Maine, including Scarborough Public Safety Building, and importantly, Abbott Laboratories in both Westbrook and Scarborough, where COVID tests were being developed and manufactured. However, a reliable ride to work is the largest barrier to sustainable employment and economic viability for this workforce. COVID devastated our transportation budget. We have pursued this Sisyphean task of both employment and transportation throughout the pandemic without interruption. This committee has asked us to respond to two questions. One, they've asked for us to provide a plan or how our rides will be tracked and monitored, and also to provide a brief look at our diversity, equity, inclusion, and access statement. So, in response to tracking and monitoring our ride program, all rides will continue to be dispatched by a single operations manager. Our rules, shared by Uber and our partner taxi companies, state that there will be point-to-point transportation only. Rides are provided for employment, critically, court appearances, including in other counties, essential shopping, and to COVID relief settings, including from a congregate living situation to a COVID relief hospital hotel setting. An internal auditor reviews every single rider receipt. Data that we track includes the rider name, the destination, mileage, and the cost of the ride, and this data is inputted into our spreadsheet and reviewed weekly. And contingent on COVID restrictions in 2022, Maine Recovery Fund will increase our use of public transportations at the end of the day. Reinstate carpooling, which was a critical and my favorite part of MaineWorks throughout the history of MaineWorks, frankly. It's where the intimacy and people get to know each other. We will be able to reinvigorate that volunteer drive. We'll be able to invigorate carpooling, manage longer distance job assignments because Maine is so far flung and these job sites are now increasingly further. We are also proud to announce, very importantly, a partnership immediately with Rotary 7780. We're developing a volunteer rider corps to be dispatched as soon as early next week. Transportation to work sites by 7 a.m. using public transportation is impossible. We are here to provide this support to the labor construction industry, and we are determined to continue to provide that service.
One more, 30 seconds.
Yep. So this committee has asked us to share a snapshot for our DEIA. MaineWorks was founded on inclusivity. We are here to eliminate barriers, not create them. We only employ people who have otherwise been marginalized, and this is important. When I used to ask at the circle, how many of you were ever pulled out of class for any reason, either behavioral or for special support from the school system, the answer was 100%. Every single person at MaineWorks presents with challenges in their past and history. I really deeply appreciate your consideration of our request, and I'd be happy to collaborate with an important RISE initiative throughout the city in the future. So thank you again for all of your help and support. Thanks.
Thank you very
Margo,
much.
thank you very much for presenting. Next, we're going to have Habitat for Humanity. Who is the representative for Habitat?
I'm here. I'm Tara Hill.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Tara Hill. I'm the Executive Director at Habitat for Humanity of Greater Portland. And I appreciate the opportunity to answer your questions regarding our proposal. Habitat is requesting funding to build 20 single-family, energy-efficient homes ranging in size from 1,000 to 1,500 square feet. Since 1985, our affiliate has been building affordable housing for families who earn below 80% of the area median income, which is a group that's often left out of other affordable housing developments, but who more often live in overcrowded conditions, unsafe environments, or temporary housing. They have very high monthly housing expenses, but are often unable to qualify for a conventional mortgage. They're teachers, they're secretaries, mechanics, hospital workers, and we believe they deserve a home to call their own. Unfortunately, affordable housing now often takes the form of condo-style developments. Providing more units in a smaller area can be a compelling argument, but while this may work for some people, one size does not fit all, especially families. And we believe that low-income residents deserve to have a choice in the style of housing available to them in the same way that higher-income families do. Our project would provide that option with 8 single-family homes in South Portland and 12 in Standish. The South Portland project is the result of a partnership with the South Portland Housing Authority, who has already received subdivision approval and put in the infrastructure. They're selling us the developed lots at a significant discount, in large part because they received a grant from Maine State Housing Authority for $22,500 per lot. Homes in South Portland at an affordable price point are nearly impossible to find these days, and we have already seen significant interest from families who want to apply. The Standish subdivision also has a very reasonable price per lot, but it does require us to put in wells, septic, and water filtration systems, which is the primary factor in the cost difference per house for the 2 projects. And I did submit separate budgets for the 2 of them, so I'll be able to look at the details of those as well. We've not yet publicly announced the Standish project, but we have built in this community before, and a review of our wait list of families interested in a Habitat home shows that 34 of them currently live in Standish or the surrounding towns. We're confident that once we announce the project, we will have no shortage of applications. In addition, the lots we would purchase are in an existing subdivision that has already been approved and embraced by the town. There are 40 moderately sized homes already built in a similar style, so our homes and our families will fit right in. Now, as you know, I started as executive director here this past June. I spent my initial months learning about the history and current work of the affiliate, including the DEIA practices. Historically, the Habitat for Humanity model was founded at Koinonia Farm, which is an integrated community in Americus, Georgia, founded in 1942 and in existence to this day, but really critically through those 1950s and 60s when living in an integrated community was not the norm. The Habitat model is designed with economic equity at its core because of these roots. We abide by the Fair Housing Act, which prohibits discrimination or prioritization of certain groups of people over others. In our application, I shared some of our practices that are related to DEIA. However, we recognize that we have not been as intentional, transparent, or proactive as we could be. This January, I launched a 6-month strategic planning process with the board and the staff. Together, we decided the agenda, and one component we'll be discussing and formalizing our DEIA responsibilities. And we're happy to share our improved processes and practices in the next few months. Finally, I'd like to address the long-term opportunity this funding would provide for creating significantly more affordable single-family homes in our county. On average, Habitat families qualify for a $120,000 mortgage on a home that costs $250,000 to $270,000 to build. We currently have to raise up to $150,000 per home to provide this opportunity. Looking at Habitat affiliates across the country, those that are able to build 10 or more houses per year use mostly federal, state, municipal, and corporate funding and partnerships. When I arrived last summer, I found that we did not yet have enough of these partnerships. This funding would not only allow us to build 20 homes, it would give us the time to create new networks, find larger and more diverse sources of funds, and ultimately to increase our capacity to build more affordable homes each and every year, making a long-term difference for lower-income families in Cumberland County. Habitat for Humanity of Greater Portland has the experience as a reliable partner, the proven concept, and the community commitment to successfully do this work. We appreciate your consideration, and thank you again for your time.
Tara, thank you very much. We have Avesta Housing next on the list. Who's here from Avesta?
Yes. Hi, Nate Howes with Avesta Housing.
Good morning.
So Avesta Housing is an affordable housing nonprofit based in Portland, Maine. We have 100 properties and 3,000 units across Maine and New Hampshire. So our proposals were threefold. We had three different proposals across three towns. We proposed to develop 178 units of affordable housing in the greater Portland market. In particular, we're proposing to develop a 120-unit project within a qualified census tract in Westbrook, Maine. The development will be split between senior housing, 55 plus, 60 units of that type, and another portion with a partner developer at 120% of AMI for workforce housing, and that's also 60 units. So 120 units for Westbrook total. Our application sought to highlight the creation of affordable housing in the greater Portland market as a whole, though. Our other two projects in this round, Scarborough and Gray, while they weren't in a qualified census tract, they do help alleviate the supply-demand disparity in the greater Portland market. As noted in our applications, all funds will be immediately expended, and we can help the county meet its expenditure deadlines. We would propose to use the funds strictly for acquisition-related expenses. We know that there are current difficulties in utilizing ARPA funds in tax credit transactions, and acquisition seems to be the cleanest way to use these funds. There were two questions with our application, one on the developer fee structure and one on DEI initiatives at Avesta. On the developer fee question, across all three deals, Avesta will directly contribute funding from internal holdings. This contribution is something that we do at all of our properties or all of our new construction developments. We frequently contribute money that we have either fundraised or through other purposes. We will contribute and not expect repayment. In addition, on the Westbrook and Gray deals, we are deferring 70% and 45% respectively of the gross fee in the submitted financing models. These deferred funds directly help our project financially succeed. We are also limited in what we can earn by Maine Housing, and we are adhering to their limits. The second question concerned the DEI activities that Avesta has undertaken to date. Avesta has a DEI committee which has sought to ensure that our hiring practices are inclusive, and we are now going beyond just ensuring that DEI principles are adhered to internally, but also in our RFPs for services. So, for example, when we partner with people for geotech, firms for geotech, for phase ones, architecture, we're also looking for firms that are adhering to good DEI practices. In addition, Avesta just received a grant from TD to update our resident materials, for example, broaden the languages available for those needing translation, and to study current tenant demographics and analyze their needs. So really, we're taking a holistic approach to increase and support DEI internally and externally above our housing, and it goes much further beyond fair housing. So all three of these developments will benefit from our current DEI efforts. And thank you.
Nate, thank you very much for that presentation. We're going to move to TDB LLC. Who is the representative from TDB?
Who would like to speak first?
Yeah, I am. So, can you put the camera maybe back a little bit? So,
Sure. You want to drive?
I can. Yes.
Thank you.
There you go. So, good morning, everyone. My name is Greg Day. I am the president of Day Brothers TDB LLC. I have a 30-plus year career in real estate, and I'm here today because about 2.5 years ago, I met with the city of Westbrook and introduced a concept for a development program to really transform their downtown. And we actually have our whole team here today in this room that's been assembled, to really transform this, concept into a reality. And so a brief introduction from the city of Westbrook. We have Jerry Bryant, city administrator, who's here today, Dan Stevenson, economic development director. With the Community Housing of Maine, Brenda Sylvester, Mark Harriman with Harriman Associates, our design and engineering, and Chris Simmons with Wright Ryan Construction. So this team has been working on this project, as I said, for well over 2 years. It is now a shovel-ready project. What we have here are some renderings, which, I hope you can see. The project has 4 distinct components, all of which combine, make it a very catalytic, development program. It's anchored by a vertical farm. This is modern day agriculture at a commercial scale. This farm will produce over 2 million pounds of fresh produce to service the community. It also has a labor policy, an inclusive labor policy that employs adults with physical and mental disabilities at livable wages. So really designed to have a very significant social and economic impact with over a $2 million payroll. Adjacent to the farm is a 4-level parking structure, which if you can see it here, which also acts as infrastructure for affordable housing. Levels 5 and 6, there are 60 affordable housing units, 100% affordable at 60% of AMI that Community Housing in Maine will develop, own, and operate. On the ground floor of the structure is 7,000 square feet of commercial space, will be tenanted by health food service tenants. As part of this project too, there is a requirement or a need to upgrade sewer and storm water lines. The current lines date back to the 1800s and do not have the capacity to service this project. All told, this is about a $100 million project. It is shovel ready, fully permitted. All our documents were ready to start literally next month. And then with that, we've submitted a funding request for $8 million to address the funding gaps, which, on Friday, I submitted a formal written response to the 4 questions. Certainly happy to go through those in detail. I want to give the remainder of this time to Jerry Bryant, who's a much better spokesman than I am.
Thank you for setting me up for failure. I'm disappointed.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Jerry Bryant. I am the city administrator for the city of Westbrook, a position I have held for the past 19 years. This is one of the most exciting projects I have had the privilege of participating in during my entire municipal management career. And we're a little repetitive, but I look at these different components with a little different lens, perhaps, than Greg might. This project will create 60 affordable housing units with immediate access to services, transportation, including public transit, parks and recreational amenities, close proximity to all 3 levels of the public school system. It is a location that is ideal for residential development. And it is a tough location to be able to put affordable housing simply because of land costs and other competing economic factors. By being a little creative, and a lot of this project is creative, we are putting these 60 units on the upper levels of the parking garage above the 4 levels of parking. It enables us, it's a really efficient, economic, and I think innovative way to manage land in the urban setting. A project that probably couldn't work if they had to acquire land in the downtown where you have your services, you have everything that you want to support housing, and particularly affordable housing. We're doing it by basically having air rights above the parking garage and granting the opportunity to create the 60 affordable housing units. It also includes an urban farm, as Greg had described. Basically, it will generate, it will annually generate more than 1 million pounds of quality, locally grown produce on an annual basis. It operates 24/7, 365. It is obviously part of a new age of farming, incredibly good management of land use, because the level of produce that would be produced out of this facility, if you're doing it on traditional farming, would be, at least hundreds of acres, okay? And would obviously outside would be on a seasonal basis. So this gives us a lot immediate access to locally grown produce on a year-round basis. The project also replaces a 100-space surface parking lot, municipally owned parking lot, with a 370-space parking garage. again, much better, economical, environmentally friendly use of land in order to accommodate the parking to serve all of the downtown. This will be a public parking facility with no charge. It is free parking, and it will be available to all residents, businesses, and visitors to the downtown. One other caveat I want to explain about Vertical Harvest. As a corporate priority, they have hiring preferences for adults with disabilities. They currently, they have one current location in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, employ, I think 60 or 70 adults. It's a smaller facility than this one, but adults with disabilities in meaningful, career-oriented positions, good pay, full benefits. These are meaningful jobs that are available to a population that struggles to attain that level of employment. So that's just an additional component that I think is really critical to what we're building here, hoping to build here in Westbrook.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Is my time up?
Yeah, we asked just 5 minutes.
Okay. Westbrook is completely committed to this project. The city will administer any public funding that comes into this project. So, and we have a lot of experience in administering grant funds. It is shovel ready, but we're looking at a construction period of 18 to 24 months. So if indeed it works better for the county to fund from 2 cycles of funding as opposed to just this 1 cycle, that works for us. Obviously, we need to know up front what the total amount is going to be. But if it's an issue of, this is a large ask, I understand that. I also think it is a game changer for downtown development and redevelopment. And I think it's going to be a model that's going to be replicated in many, many communities throughout Maine, New England, for the country for that matter. We're very, very proud to be part of it. We have a great working relationship with the Day brothers. Chalmers is obviously a great housing partner. And we really want to see this project happen. The city is 100% committed to making this happen. However, it is not inexpensive, and we are seeking some support from the county through the ARPA program. We feel this project not only hits the ARPA funding criteria, but goes far beyond that with the employment practices, with the sustainability, with the environmental friendly construction. So we very much appreciate your time today with us and all the other applicants you're listening to, and hope you'll be able to find a way to support this project.
Thank you very much. We've had a number of really great presentations here. I think according to our schedule, we're going to take a brief break. So I think we had slated about a 9 or 10 minute break. Why don't we say we're going to come back at, according to my clock, 7 past 11, so 11:07. We'll stand adjourned until that time. Thank you.
If I want to email this to the committee, would that just respond to the email?
Right on. Absolutely. Yeah, this is great.
Back to our old presentation, like an interview. We're just saying.
Thank you
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Sorry about the technical difficulties at the beginning there, but we appreciate your time.
Oh, okay. Great. So we don't need to send it. You'll do it.
I need you to send me.
I'll run into that. You have other stuff.
Right.
So thank you.
Yes, thank you.
It's on, Greg.
Nice to meet you. I'm Sandra.
Pleasure. It's tough to, you can only imagine the logistics.
Yeah, it's tricky. We've taken a hybrid approach to kind of keep people involved
Right.
that don't feel necessarily as comfortable kind of being in person. So it's tricky to get the technical stuff.
Is there a Q&A after everyone's gone here? Do we stick around?
Yeah. We'll have a Q&A. Well, it's kind of off schedule now, but it was supposed to be like 25, 11:25-ish.
Oh, should we
Stay in case you have
for that?
questions?
It's not, I shouldn't say Q&A, it's just public open comment period, where anyone could speak. So it's not, we're not gonna ask questions of you. It's just an opportunity for agencies to kind of pitch more for their
Okay.
groups. So you don't have to do that.
I'll stay to listen.
Yeah.
If you want to, you are absolutely welcome to stay and listen. I think the other thing would be, we'll take all this feedback in that we get today. And then if we want to have you guys come and talk to us directly individually, you can do
Oh,
that
that'd be
too.
wonderful. Yeah, I know it's, and that's why, it's almost voluminous, how much information we have.
Yeah.
And so it's hard the goal was to try and distill it for you guys, but there's
Yeah,
plenty of
there's-
backup.
If you hang for a little bit, can I get a little back by you?
Oh, yeah.
Jerry has to go back.
Yeah.
Right. Hey,
I don't think that was a question.
If you're just joining, we're just taking a quick 5-minute break from the presentation. So we'll start up in just another minute. Okay. So in about another minute, we'll start back up with presentations. And I sent a little message in the chat for those of you that are on currently. Moving forward, what I'm going to do is just hold up a piece of paper at the 1 minute mark, letting you know you have a minute left, and then again at time, just to try to keep everyone on track. We started a little late today due to some technical difficulties, so I apologize. That's mainly my fault for us not being exactly on time, so I apologize.
Sandy, thank you very much. So I see it is 11:07, so we'll go ahead and resume. Starting this block of presentations is going to be youth and family outreach for building a brighter future. Who is representing that organization here today?
Hi, that's me.
Good morning.
Hi there.
Go ahead and start your presentation.
Thank you. My name is Camelia Babson Haley, and it has been my honor to serve as the Executive Director of Youth and Family Outreach for the past 22 years. Thanks for allowing me to discuss our shovel-ready project that we call Building a Brighter Future, a project in downtown Portland that will increase access to affordable childcare by doubling our capacity. Doing so will ensure more children will enter the K-12 system ready to learn, and more parents can participate in the Cumberland County workforce and/or complete their education to access jobs. I wanted to take a moment to highlight a few statistics that have come to my attention since our submission to you. One is that Maine is lacking quality childcare options for working families, especially those we now refer to as essential workers. 43% of childcare providers in the state of Maine report a growing wait list and cannot meet the demand. And as of August 2021, 25,000 Mainers were out of work due to a lack of childcare, of which 22,000 were women. The pandemic has raised public awareness of how essential high quality, affordable childcare is to our community and our economy. And so I wanted to thank you for making it a priority in your funding. I'd like to address your two questions. You asked about our diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility practices. YFO is a model for DEIA by incorporating and honoring socioeconomic, racial, gender, and sexual orientation, physical and developmental inclusion practices across all aspects of YFO's operations. Our equity statement reads, YFO stands in solidarity now and always with the BIPOC community. We recognize the systemic racial injustices faced by Black and Brown and Indigenous people every day. Anti-bias and anti-racism work at YFO is ongoing due to the changing nature of a school community and focuses on uplifting individuals to be proud of their uniqueness while honoring other individuals' differences. YFO is dedicated to integrating this education at all levels of the school community. We not only set an example of cultural diversity for our students, but also advance racial equity through economic and workforce development that our diverse community needs. YFO prioritizes hiring teachers from diverse backgrounds and addresses wage gaps for women and people of color. In recent years, we've employed teachers from Afghanistan, Congo, Sudan, Russia, Brazil, and Angola, as well as those who identify as Black American. Today, 53% of our staff come from marginalized communities, and 4 of those individuals hold leadership roles. In the winter of 2021, we engaged a social justice education consultant to work with us. This will be a 2-year process with our staff and our board. We chose her because her approach is to teach cross-cultural understanding through community-based dialogue and education. Additionally, 33% of YFO children are diagnosed with a disability, and this expansion project will transform our program into a completely accessible facility. The second of your questions for us was regarding deferment of the developer's fees. I'll address this, but wanted to also acknowledge that developers' fees are separate from our budget for the Building a Brighter Future project budget. Maine Housing caps the developer fee at $750,000. And so while it looks like there is a large portion of the fee already deferred, the $1.4 million is really just paper fee to generate an additional tax credit into the deal. The fee goes to pay expenses, risk, and compensates the developers for taking on construction and operating guarantees. If all the developer fees were deferred, the project would not be able to move forward. So the ARPA funds are necessary for the project's success. Portland Housing Authority's success in accessing multiple state and federal grants to cover the housing elements, as well as the envelope of the new childcare facility, kept the amount YFO needed to raise for its program expansion and renovations under $3 million. Since the project planning and campaign began in 2019, YFO and Portland Housing Authority leadership have worked hard to adjust to the changing and rising costs of materials and supplies, like so many capital projects in Maine and the nation. The Cumberland County ARPA investment in this project supports YFO in meeting its required project contribution. The investment will allow us to break ground this summer on a once-in-a-lifetime education and housing center in a neighborhood with tremendous need and opportunity to change lives and help bolster this region's economy. Thank you so much for your time and for your consideration of our project.
Camelia, thank you very much. Next on the agenda is the Quality Housing Coalition, or Growing Project Home. Is there someone from that organization?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Victoria Morales. I'm the Executive Director of Quality Housing Coalition, and Rod Mawa is also here with me, and he is the Project Home Coordinator. And so Rod's going to take the first part of the question, and then I'm going to take the second two parts of the question. So the first part of the question is, how will we execute the project of growing Project Home? And so I'd like to ask Rod to begin that, and then I'll jump in.
All right. Thank you, Victoria. Thank you for having us today. The first part of the question is how we will be executing the project. So we will hire for 40 more hours of navigation. So that navigation is dedicated to recruiting and educating landlords to accept tenants who have experienced homelessness and have various forms of rental subsidies. This work will require hosting 2 to 3 meetings, a month with the community, including local governments, landlords organization, and neighborhood organizations as well. So the navigator will meet with and stay in contact with our landlords partners on a regular basis to identify available units ready to be filled and make the connection between our housing readiness partners and available units. So the more landlords we get, the more housing we're able to provide for tenants and household in need. So increasing our navigation hours last year by 20 hours resulted in housing 85 more households than the previous year. So the bridging and support we provide works. We will also hire a full-time employee housing mentor to be able to partner with the landlords who reach out to us with existing tenants at risk of eviction and in need of a housing mentor to provide education, connection to resources, monthly visits, and conflict resolution support for the tenancy. So these tenants will be able to become Project Home tenants with all the support that we provide.
And the last piece of this is that based on surveying the landlords that we partner with, which is over 20 landlords statewide, we understand that setting up a risk mitigation fund through insurance products or an escrow account at a local bank will allow Project Home to recruit more landlords and assure that the apartments will have financial security backing for each one. And again, the more support we have to landlords, the more people we are able to house who are experiencing homelessness. The second question that you asked us was about our grant management capacity. And we did provide a statement from United Way, one of our funders, attesting to our grant management capacity this morning. But we do understand that we're here and we're a fairly new nonprofit, being only 5 years old. However, I think it's important to note for everyone here that we formed because we are taking a new approach to solving the housing crisis, which we know just didn't just begin with the pandemic. And we're doing it by prioritizing recruiting housing units, recruiting apartments, and the landlords that own them first. And in just 4 years, using this approach, we've housed 275 households, 687 adults and children in apartments that they would have been prohibited from applying for, but for a project home. The last question is about our diversity, equity, inclusion, and access. And really, this is the foundation of the work we do. DEI is built into the DNA of Quality Housing Coalition. Our board membership, our small staff reflects the diversity of the community we serve and which we work with, and the individuals and the organizations most knowledgeable about access to housing who we partner with. This includes Black and Brown Mainers, asylee Mainers, LGBTQI+ Mainers, and Mainers in recovery from substance use and misuse. We are dedicated to removing barriers to accessing housing by educating our partners on the harms structural barriers in the housing sector have caused many people, and working together with our partners to remove these barriers. We use an inclusive process for decision-making and seek input from those we serve and our community partners in the process, and are always open to revising our process so that it is more inclusive. All of our staff and our board members assign a DEI policy and a racial equity pledge, and I'll just briefly read our racial equity pledge if I have time to do that. Sandy, do I have time to do that?
You're technically at time.
Oh, okay. So I won't read it then. Thank you.
Could you to us? That would be wonderful. If you haven't already, send it to us.
Absolutely. QHC is dedicated to removing structural racism from our housing systems. For far too long, Black, Brown, and Indigenous people have been disproportionately houseless, at risk of being unhoused, and housing cost burdened. History shows that our federal, state, and local housing policies explicitly discriminated against Black and Brown people. To move towards transformative change, QHC vows to center the voices of Black, Brown, and Indigenous people in our work towards housing equality and housing equity. Our work will primarily focus on removing barriers to existing housing opportunities, supporting successful housing partnerships, and advocating for increasing the supply of affordable housing in Maine. We commit to be open to always learning more and to holding ourselves accountable to make sure our actions align with our intentions. Thank you so very much.
Great. Thank you very much. Next, we have Maine Pretrial Services. Who is representing Maine Pretrial?
Good morning. This is Elizabeth Simone from Maine Pretrial Services.
Good morning. Go ahead.
And I'm sorry, I don't know why my camera is blocked. So thank you. It should come on now, and it's not. Okay. Anyway, we had 3 questions. First of all, I'd like to say thank you for this opportunity. And our agency's first question was, would we be willing to work with a smaller number of clients in order to conduct an external evaluation of longer term success rates for this program? The answer would be yes. We had put in our proposal to serve 76 people using a calculation of how many housing months we could have for recovery residents housing. And we could decrease that number and pay for an external evaluation. The alternative to that would be that we carefully collect our data, which we are accustomed to doing, and look at some outcomes using an external partner such as Public Consulting Group. If we were able to contract with Public Consulting, we estimate a cost of anywhere from $15,000 to $25,000 to do that, which would greatly decrease the number of people we work with. The ultimate goal would be to increase housing stability for as many people as we can and decrease the contacts that they have with the criminal justice system. So we're open to that, certainly. The second question that we had was that our application notes expansion of existing funds, but the funding is not associated with our budget. We were asked to please describe that and describe what sustainability might look like for our project. The existing funding that we alluded to was the Building Bridges Grant, which is a grant partnership that we are involved in with Cumberland County. The money for that has almost been completely spent down. It's a project that helps us get people out of CCJ and back into the community and provides housing for each individual for up to 3 months. A current project that we are involved with is called COSAP, and that's also another partnership with Cumberland County. There is a small amount of money in that grant that allows for housing over the next 3 years, and it is approximately 5 months per person. So we were looking to expand on this. In terms of the sustainability question, that's a fantastic question. We thought that the current funding we had could enhance the project that we're asking to do and bolster our efforts, but we're already started in it. This for us is really about transitioning people from jail to community and not seeing them boomerang back into detention and justice involvement. So we are looking specifically for housing funds. And while it might not be sustainable in the true sense of the word, we are not going anywhere. We've been engaged in this business since the 1970s, and we are absolutely committed to continuing to apply for every grant opportunity we can. In fact, we are part of a larger collaborative effort in Cumberland County for a MacArthur housing grant application right now. We just don't want to stop doing this. We know that this is a missing ingredient for people we serve. Finally, we were asked to provide a snapshot of our DEIA practices, and I did send along policies that we've had in place ahead of time, essentially equal opportunity employment policy, anti-discrimination policy, sexual and other unlawful harassment policy, and disability access policy. We also worked up a diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility statement. I myself was lucky enough to go through a 6-week training academy this summer with the National Institute of Corrections for DEI work, and my coworker, Sean LaGrega, was part of a Mind Bridge diversity practice under the Domestic Violence Commission. Our policy is to accomplish our mission, we must be responsive to the needs of people who may receive services, regardless of race, ethnic background, ancestry, age, physical or mental disability, religious creed, gender identity, or sexual orientation. We will strive to maintain equitable opportunities for release and access to services, regardless of an individual's socioeconomic standing. We will create and implement programs using our awareness of cultural and economic differences and treat all clients with respect. That part is how we work with people. Most of the people that we have served for decades have been people that are disadvantaged in many ways. So we have that prong. The second prong is about the organizational culture. And it is that we will maintain an organizational culture that seeks and values employees of all racial and ethnic backgrounds, ancestry, ages, physical and mental abilities, gender identity, and sexual orientation. Our commitment to inclusiveness will be evident in our policies, procedures, and goals, and rooted in our values of respect, integrity, and honesty. We are very fortunate to have both Black and Brown staff. We recently had Native American staff, but they have moved forward into a different career. And we have a number of people who identify as LGBTQ or I, and individuals who are in recovery in our community. Thank you.
Elizabeth, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Moving ahead, we have the Greater Portland Community Land Trust. Who is here for that organization?
Tim Wells, I'm here.
Thank you, Tim. Go ahead.
Sure. The Greater Portland Community Land Trust is proposing 16 units of housing in Portland off the Back Cove. We have won an RFP with the City of Portland and gotten support from CEI, the Genesis Fund, and we're working with the Maine Housing also on this project. These 16 units of ownership are all sustainably built. They're going to be built to passive house standards. We really think about, with this project, we got lucky, but we also are very committed to building houses and homes that we think about the total cost of ownership. So we think about the maintenance costs. We think about where it's located and how we lower the costs of transportation for the homeowners, for the families and individuals that are going to live there. We like to think about their health, what is around there for them to get out and walk and exercise, et cetera, et cetera. How much can they ride their bikes to local areas? So we take all of that into consideration as much as possible. But one of the key pieces about CLTs is that these homes are forever affordable. So they have a deed restriction on them, and they will remain, they have to be sold at a similar price, discount to what the people that originally bought this for. So these homes will always be affordable until they're replaced. The other piece of this is that there's a higher return on investment financially, societally, and environmentally in this model. And that's one thing that's really attracted us, this group, to create the CLT model and adopt it. With home ownership, building units of ownership as affordable housing is incredibly difficult, because HUD, the USDA, all of the federal financing or federal monies take in rental. They're for rental models, not for ownership models. And so this is, it's a much more difficult to achieve. And of course, getting people to get mortgages, the whole mortgage lending infrastructure and ecosystem is not built for giving mortgages to people of lower incomes, right? There's a clash there. And so it's very, very difficult and a lot of extra work to build affordable housing units that are for home ownership. But the value societally to home ownership versus rental is incredible. And it's also a population that's underserved. When people go and apply for, rental lower income housing units, if they start earning too much, they may no longer be able to stay there. And then what do they graduate to? Because now they go out into a system like in Portland, and there's no way they're at that income place. They can't afford it's very difficult to find a rental unit that they can afford still. And they certainly can't afford to buy something. And so we're filling that gap. And that's a very important gap, because there's something that these people can say, hey, I've got an option. I can own something. And home ownership, there's been a lot of longitudinal studies and a lot of work done on looking at this, but kids that grow up in families of home ownership have higher reading scores, higher math scores, increased educational attainment. Much more of them go on to either get an associate's or a bachelor's or a master's degree, significant higher earnings and employability over their lifetime. So it's a significant return on investment societally. Financially, the amount it takes for these units, it's about a $93,000 subsidy to get per home. We don't have to re-syndicate. We don't have to pay for all the maintenance and the refurbishment that goes along with the rental units. That's all taken care of by the homeowners. And so that it's a very good investment. We had two questions. One was about accessibility of the units. And we have, I've answered that, but the plot of land that we won is a very narrow lot. And you cannot put, in this lot, all the units on the bottom floor are accessible. The upper units are not, because we cannot put in an elevator in this building, because we cannot split the building with a hallway. It's not deep enough to do that. but we will have units of 3-bedroom, 2-bedroom, and 1-bedroom on the ground floor for accessibility for that mix. And of course, those will be prioritized for people that have accessibility issues. The DEIA, we sent in our policy on that, and it's integral to our mission. I mean, it is what we do. And we care very much about it for the people that serves on our board and for the people that we serve. And so I think you can read our policy. I don't think I need to read it, but it is at the top of our mind always, and just an integral part of our mission.
Tim, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Finally, I apologize, I'm on my audio. We will move to the Recovery Community Center.
Thank you for the opportunity to present today. My name's Leslie Clark, and I'm the Executive Director at Portland Recovery Community Center, PRCC, and a person in long-term recovery myself from alcohol and drugs since 1989. Those of us who develop addiction do so because we're susceptible, either genetically or because of rough childhoods or both. The journey from active addiction to long-term sustained recovery is not an easy one. It's absolutely achievable when the right supports and help are in place. Over 26 million Americans are living proof that recovery is possible. PRCC is Cumberland County's only recovery community organization and started as a pilot in 2012, became an independent nonprofit in 2017. We serve as a statewide hub to help start new recovery community centers all over the state, including here in Cumberland County. PRCC serves a unique role in the continuum of treatment and services to help people recover from substance use disorder. We're home to over 50 weekly recovery support groups and wellness activities, in addition to recovery coaching, telephone recovery support. We serve as a place for people in recovery, as well as family and friends, to gather, share their stories of hope, strength, experience with one another. We currently have over 1,700 active participants, and there are no fees for any of our programs or services. We're open 7 days a week, and volunteers run most of our programs, so it's a true community center for people in recovery, governed and managed by people in recovery for people in recovery. In the array of needed services for people with addiction, recovery community centers often serve as a bridge between treatment and incarceration to sustained recovery, or a first step for people seeking help. At PRCC, people learn the tools needed for long-term recovery and work to change their behavior, get support, have positive connection with others, and receive help to find housing and work and healthcare and all those much needed resources. About this project specifically, Johan Hari said the opposite of addiction is not sobriety, it is connection. When COVID-19 hit, the two greatest public health issues of our time collided, the opioid crisis and the pandemic. For people in recovery, the result of the consequent isolation was especially devastating as we witnessed the dramatic increase of deaths by overdose. So many of our community have been lost. PRCC's board of directors recognized we could not continue to operate in the small space we had on Forest Avenue. With approaching 50,000 visits a year, the 3,300 square foot building was made up of small rooms. It had terrible air circulation, and there was no way to meet safely in person. We purchased a building 10 months ago at Bishop Street. 102 Bishop Street was previously the Deering Masonic Lodge, and we began to raise money to renovate it. We knew we needed windows to be added for light and fresh air, and large spaces for group to gather safely with good airflow and air quality. The new home for PRCC sits on 1.25 acres, further allowing us to develop outdoor gathering spaces to use during good weather. We began renovations 6 months ago, and we are seeking funding to be able to complete our project by late summer 2022. Our project is shovel ready and will address the public health impact of COVID-19 by helping people find and sustain their recovery and turn the tide of increased overdose deaths during the pandemic. There were 2 questions that the committee asked us to address, and we submitted written responses to both of those. But in summary, this project is for the full renovation of the building's interior, exterior spaces, all 4 of the phases. The full project is budgeted at $750,000, and we're most of the way through the first 2 phases and have raised the funds needed to make up the difference between the $515,152 requested in this proposal and the full $750,000. Regarding the DEIA statements for PRCC, we provided a detailed written response, but just wanted to add that all of our policies, practices, strategic planning, philosophy, values, targeted outreach show and demonstrate our commitment to equity and justice work. And I would just also note that PRCC proactively works to hire people who are in recovery from SUD, and we do not discriminate against people who have a criminal history. 19 of our 20 employees identify as being in recovery from substance use disorder. Thank you so much for this opportunity to present. I know I'm the last thing between you and the next part of your work, and I'm very grateful to be here. I invite you to visit PRCC anytime and ask that you support our project with the full funding request through the American Rescue Plan Act. Thank you.
Thank you very much. To everyone who presented, thank you very much for presenting a really great look at each of your projects. As members of the advisory committee will know, we spent a good number of hours going through each application, each page, each document. But it's always great to have a personal face present information, regarding your project, and to demonstrate how passionate you are about each of the projects that were presented. So that is greatly appreciated from the advisory committee. Now we'll move into public comment. If there's any public comment that someone would like to make, I think there might be some people on the call who were not presenting. So just let us know who you are if you want to make a comment, and then to which project you're speaking on. Does anyone want to make a public comment?
Gentlemen?
Because we already presented, I didn't want to double, but I could make certainly make a comment that's allowable. But
Yeah.
Because we already presented, great. Yeah.
John, we have someone here in the room with me that Daniel Stevenson that would like to make a comment.
Sure. Go ahead, Daniel.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Because our team already had a chance to present to you, I don't want to use that time for that. I literally want to just make a 1 minute or less statement, and that is, I've been in the field of economic and community development for the state of Maine for 25 years. I've worked on hundreds of projects around the state. So I just wanted to comment on the Westbrook project. After listening to a number of others, I can see how difficult your work is going to be cut out for you. Every single person I heard present did, quite frankly, an outstanding job. So I know you have very, very difficult decisions to make. We just want you to know that here, certainly, the city of Westbrook, our partnership is strong, and we're here for any additional comments or questions that you would have. I really appreciate, frankly, in earnest, listening to us today and reviewing all the materials that was sent. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else that would like to make a comment? Going once? Going twice? All right. We'll move on to for the advisory committee, moving on to reviewing the tier 1 and tier 2 full applications received and discuss the score summaries. People are welcome to stay on the meeting if they'd like. However, if you want to leave the meeting, that's certainly understandable. But again, thank you very much for everyone who presented if you're choosing to leave at this time.
Okay. Just 1 second, I gotta figure out which computer to use.
Sure.
Okay. I think I have audio with this one. So I'm just gonna keep things the way they are, guys. Figure this out. Okay. All right. And I think, so we've had our public comment period, and then any other, John, do you want to take over with the remainder of the agenda?
Sure.
Okay.
Excuse me. As far as the presentations we've just seen, anyone on the committee have any comments or anything they'd like to add or just state? I know there's a lot of information over the last hour and a half or so that we've listened to, and like I said earlier, it was great to sort of flesh out a few more details in some of the presentations. I know Al is on his phone. He sent an email about that. He had to leave to go to an appointment. But anyone on the committee, if you have any comments, now would be the best time to have them. I see Al has raised a hand. And then
Thank you, John. Sandra, I think it was the second to last one. I think it was the Randall Street project.
Mm-hmm.
They indicated that the first floor units are going to be a mix of 1, 2, and 3 bedroom units, which is inconsistent with the plan they submitted. So did they submit a new plan?
So I think Tim might still be on from Greater Portland Family Land Trust, but they did identify that they would, sorry, I got a little echo there, that they could adjust their plan, that it wasn't fully committed, and that they'd be willing to be flexible in terms of the drawing and renderings. Tim, are you still available to discuss that a little bit more?
Yes, that was a initial plan that we had to put into the city. And so the final plans have not been drawn up. And so the architect hasn't done that. So we understand the issues of accessibility and the whole program of the building when we get further along because of starting the city permitting process. That will be finalized. But we have 2 architects on our board, and they drew those up. And now the architect that will actually be doing the project will be taking that over. So.
But the reality is the units or the second and third floor wouldn't be allowed to have ADA access because you can't have an elevator, right?
Yeah, only the first floor will be accessible, will be ADA accessible. Okay. Yes.
So can you commit that for the first floor, as an example, 4 units will be 1 bedroom, 2 units will be 2 bedroom, and 2 units will be 3 bedroom for the purpose of this application?
No, we can't commit to 6 units on the ground floor being ADA accessible. We have to figure there's because of the ramp access, we only have 10 feet in the front, and because of the ramp, the slope, we are going to have to do some to the side, and that means that so many of the units, we're going to have to figure that out about the entrances and whether like a 3 bedroom will take up a lot more space than a 1 bedroom along the front of that building because it's only 1 unit deep. And so until the architect figures that out exactly, I don't want to commit to anything exactly because I may not be telling you the truth. But what we will commit to is that we're going to have a mix of bedrooms on the ground floor that will be accessible, and we will maximize that as best we can. I mean, we care about this greatly, but we do have that limitation of the depth of that lot, and so it's just. We have to deal with the the physical limitations of the lot, and so but we certainly will be able to get 4 units out of the 16 to be accessible, but probably again it depends whether we do 2 2-bedrooms, 1 3-bedroom, and 2 1-bedrooms, what that mix is on the ground floor. And there has to be stairways up from each of those units to the other units. And so there is a puzzle here to figure out, sort of like a Rubik's Cube. And so I don't want to tell you something that's not true. That's all.
All right.
Yeah.
I would recommend to the committee that we defer this application as not being shovel ready. And once they have their plan refined, that they could return. Thanks.
Okay. Rachel, I think you had your hand up.
Yes, I did, and I also have a very bad cold, so that's one of the negative aspects of being able to get out after COVID and talking to a lot of people. Colds are back. I want to thank all of those folks who came and spoke to us. It was very helpful, certainly to me, to clarify some of the questions I had and to have a more complete understanding of what was going on. I think especially Habitat for Humanity, their explanation of the changes in the cost or the additional costs for the houses, proposed houses out in Standish, and how they would actually fit in with the community there, leads me to say we should take another look at any funding for them. I think that is very worthy of additional funding as we go along. I had also, I've got some notes here that if my eyes stop watering, I can read. The issue of the transportation, I was extremely impressed with what they're doing. They are providing a very needed service that's, I think sometimes it's not sexy. It's not something that people say, wow, transportation, there are rides. But I think they are providing a foundational opportunity for folks who need it to integrate back into society. I'm still a little unclear on Avesta, and I understand that there will be some deferral of the developer's costs for Gray and Westbrook. At least that's what my notes said. I didn't hear anything about Scarborough, and I'm not clear on what actually the deferral is or what it means. So it would help me to have more information there. I think pretty much the rest of what I heard kind of confirms where we were going with these proposals. So thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. Any other comments or questions by the committee? No?
Would we like to meet again sooner, next week, for example, or hold our meeting? Or actually, would it be okay to meet next week to do our final recommendations before March 14th?
I think, Sandy, that we've got 11 minutes left, so I think we're going to have to have a meeting next Tuesday. I don't think I think our standard 1 hour meeting would be sufficient. Remind me, we had been meeting at 11, correct?
Yes. Yep.
So if 11 to 12 next Tuesday, which would be the 8th, works for everyone on the committee, I would propose that we meet then. Does that time and day work for everyone?
Yep. Fingers.
See some thumbs up. Good. Okay. Why don't we plan on doing that then? And hopefully we can get this portion of our work all wrapped up and sent off to the county commissioners.
Okay.
Is there any other business that we need to attend to this morning?
No, I don't believe so.
Okay. To the members of the commission, or excuse me, the committee, we did a lot of work today, answered a lot of questions, had a lot of good comments, and I want to thank each and every one of you for being here. Sandy, I want to thank you for overcoming some technical difficulties in the room there. But I think everybody did a great job, and the presenters did a fabulous job getting as much information to us as they could in between 5 and 7 minutes or so. So if that is it, I will look for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Got a motion? Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
I see a lot of hands.
Yeah.
Looks unanimous. Thank you very much.
Thank you.